This is the story of a man who fought a battle of life and death for a long period of 1 year and 2 months in the world's largest and most ruthless ocean, the Pacific Ocean, set a world record, and after 14 months, he also returned alive. But what happened as soon as he returned that he ended up in jail? Find out the whole story in this video. There are 5 oceans in the world. Out of these 5 oceans, the largest is called the Pacific Ocean, which covers an area of 165 million square kilometers. You'll be surprised to know that the total land area of our world is only 140 million square kilometers. This means that if we set aside the other 4 oceans and just talk about the Pacific Ocean, it alone is much larger than all the mountains, deserts, forests, and islands combined. There are only a few islands on this ocean. Most of them are so remote that no human has ever set foot on them. If someone accidentally gets lost in the Pacific Ocean, finding them is nearly impossible. The name of the man who survived in the Pacific Ocean for 14 months was Josh Salvador Alvarenga. This person had a small 7-foot boat on which one could not even lie straight, yet he survived on it for more than a year. He also battled against the brutality of this ocean and set a world record for spending the longest time alone at ocean. A world record that no one would even think about breaking. Josh was only forced by fate to face these circumstances. But the question is, how did this person survive alone in this vast ocean for 14 months? But before that, we will find out why he went to this ocean. The story goes back to November 17th, 2012, when Jose, a 36-year-old experienced fisherman, lived in a small village called Costa Azul in Mexico. On the 17th of November 2012, Josh and his friend went out for fishing together. Like every day, they could not go far to catch fish on this small 7-foot boat. Because the boat was very small, it had only 1 engine and 1 fridge, so they could catch only a few fishes here. Both of them decided to return in 30 hours. They set out and began laying their net in the sea, 120 kilometers away from the coast of Mexico, when suddenly they saw a dangerous sea storm coming towards them. To save time, they left the net there and start running the boat at full speed. For 6 straight hours, they raced their boat, and by 7 a.m., they were only 20 kilometers from the shore and could even see their village. They had left the storm far behind, but their luck ran out when the boat's engine suddenly broke down. They didn't have paddles, and the boat had no sail to control its direction. However, they had a radio, through which they sent their location to their boss and started waiting for a response. Their luck was so bad that even the radio battery died. On one side, they were looking at the shore, and on the other side, the storm coming towards them, which was coming with such intensity, as if it would swallow them alive. The intensity of the winds along with the storm was so strong that their boat started moving away from the shore. In a short time, the shore also disappeared from the scene, and the strong waves started pulling them to the other side. When that message reached to their boss, it was too late. The boss sent a search party to find them, but with every passing moment, Josh's boat was getting farther and farther away. Shockingly, within just 5 days, their boat had drifted 450 kilometers away from the shore. Because the boat was so small, it was even harder to find them. They had no flare gun or any way to signal with smoke. Both of them looked at each other, thinking that perhaps it would be difficult to survive now. 2 days earlier, their food had already run out. They didn't have the tools to catch fish either, as they had abandoned their net earlier. They were starving when a bird landed on their boat. They looked at each other and suddenly attacked the bird, but they couldn't catch it. They knew that the bird might come back. Shortly after, another bird landed. This time they planned carefully and finally caught it. In this way, both of them survived by eating the birds that came onto their boat. Drinking salt water can kill a person, so they started collecting rainwater in plastic bottles floating in the sea. But when it did not rain, they used to drink the blood of fishes and turtles, but that too, only when they were successful in catching them. Days turned into months. The mental torture that both of them were going through is very difficult for us to even imagine. Finally, Josh's partner could not bear this torture, and after 4 months, he committed suicide. Now, only Josh was alone on the boat, with water all around him, looking at which he could not see any hope of life left. But fed up with his situation, he started living his life somehow. Based on maps, Jose was now somewhere in the part of the Pacific Ocean known as one of the world's quietest regions. Hardly any cargo ships passed through this area. It had been more than 6 months since he left the coast of Mexico, and during this time, Jose had also lost his partner. One day, he spotted a cargo ship in the distance, the first ship he had seen in 6 months. Seeing it gave him hope again. Jose tried to signal the cargo ship in every possible way, but unfortunately the ship was too far away, and they couldn't see his tiny boat. Soon that ship also started disappearing from Josh's sight, and he started thinking that perhaps death is written in my fate. Friends, just imagine that for 6 months you are in such a place in the world where you do not see even another person. And if after a long time you see someone, but he is not able to see you and passes by, then how will you feel? After 11 months, Jose had traveled 8,000 kilometers in his tiny boat. His clothes were torn, and all he had left to protect himself from the sun was a pair of underwear. Finally, after 14 months, luck smiled on him. On January 30th, 2014, he saw coconuts floating in the water. He knew he was close to an island, as coconuts from the trees were floating in the water. Soon he spotted an island in the distance. Afraid that he might miss this island, he jumped into the water and swam to shore. Finally, after months, he reached solid land. Actually, this island is called Ibon Atni, known as the smallest island in the world. It was a miracle of God that the direction of the winds turned his boat in such a way that his boat took him towards this small island. If he hadn't reached this place, and if the wind had changed direction even slightly, he might never have found it. And if he had survived the journey, he would have probably seen the Philippines island 5,000 kilometers away. But Josh was lucky that he reached Ibon Atni Island. It proved to be a blessing for him. It was as if he had got a new life after escaping from the jaws of death. After surveying the area a little, he saw a house. After some time, a person came out of that house. After spending about 14 months in the ocean, he was seeing a living person for the first time. Seeing this, tears came to his eyes. Soon after hearing his story, the local police arrived. Jose narrated his entire journey to the officers, but no one believed his story. How could anyone survive for so long on such a small boat without food or water and seeing a dead body? To prove his story, he called his boss, who used to send him out for fishing trips. His boss confirmed that Josh worked for him and that he had gone missing a year earlier. Now, because he had reached another country without a visa, after a few days of legal proceedings, he was sent back to Mexico. But this wasn't the end of his journey. The family of Jose's partner, who had died midway, filed a case against him, accusing him of killing and eating his friend. After several legal battles, Jose was released. A few days later, he published a book called 438 Days, detailing his entire story. Jose's story inspires us that no matter how tough life gets, there's always a solution to every problem.